Hey, what up squad, it's your boy K-Flo, and in this video we're going to be taking the engine bay from this to this. Now let's get this thing started. Now I do like getting dirty, but I do also really hate the cleanup afterwards.
I like where this is going. Giggity, giggity, giggity.
Now, like most of you guys, I've been neglecting the engine bay for a very long time. It's covered with so much dust, debris, mud. It's almost very overwhelming to figure out where to start. So in this video, we're going to be cleaning up the engine bay using techniques from Chris Fix and also protecting the plastic components as well as some of the metal surfaces using products tested, tried and true by Project Farm himself. So real big shout out to both of you guys for all the hard work that you put into making your videos. So make sure you also stick around to the end, guys, because I do show you how I treat and protect some of the areas that did get some rust on there, especially under the battery tray. Now let's get to the truck. So we'll start with disconnecting the battery and then removing it completely. So we'll start with the negative terminal, and that's a 10mm nut. Then we'll remove the positive cover, and that's also a 10mm nut. Just pull that out the way. I'm gonna cut the zip tie here that holds the negative connection for the winch. Now we could brush the threads on this rod here and then apply some nut buster just to make sure that when we undo that nut, it doesn't seize up on us. Now if you want tips on the nut buster, it will be linked in the description below. So now let's undo this nut slightly, just getting it loose enough. And I am using a ratcheting wrench with a swivel head. As you can see, it's just a hook to the sheet metal, and I'll also show you in this video how to freshen up any of those rusty nuts and bolts as well as other parts in the truck. I'll just wiggle this thing free, and that battery hold down on the other side is also just a hook. Now we should be able to pull this battery off, and we could also pull off that battery tray on the bottom. Now we have much more room in the engine bay, so you can clean it up a bit better. Now let's remove this engine cover. There's just two 10mm nuts holding this cover down. And we could fold it up and pull it off. Now we have much more room to work in the engine bay, guys. So at this point, guys, I'm going to just go around with my shop vac and suck up as much of the large debris as I can. And I'll start from the driver's side and then work towards the front of the truck, and then we'll do the same thing on the passenger side. There's a ton of debris stuck inside the little nook of the wheel well there, so I'm gonna make sure to get the shop vac hose all the way in there, as well as suck up all the dirt here where the battery was hanging out. So now we'll just do the same thing on the passenger side, guys. Really working that vacuum in there. So here, guys, I got a bucket with 2 rags, water, and a little bit of car soap. So the idea would be to rotate between the 2 rags that I have here and use that to clean the inside of the engine bay. So I did wring down these rags as much as I can before throwing it in here and wiping down these areas. So I'll give everything a rough wipe down, get as much of that mud off as I can. So eventually I am going to hose down the inside of the engine bay, but I want to get as much of the stuck on mud off of it as possible. So there's the passenger side. As you can see, it's looking so much cleaner already. Wet wiping and I'm gonna make my way back to the driver's side. So you can spend as much time as you want, and it's really up to you how much time you have. So I'm actually listening to podcasts as I'm doing this to make it definitely much more entertaining.
Moments later.
So that's what 30 minutes of wet wiping looks like so far, guys. It's looking so much better already. So now we're going to be using this gunk engine cleaner as well as this spray bottle filled with water and dish soap. Make sure that the dipstick is pushed all the way in, because it could be hanging out like that. Push that all the way down. And we can also make sure that the oil cap is snug tight. So I am planning on spraying the gunk all over the aluminum part of the motor, and it will get a little bit on the plastic, but that's fine because the cleaner itself is safe on plastics. Yeah, this one is less harsh than the original, so that's why I opted with the foamy cleaner than the original formula. But I am going to try to avoid the electrical connectors like this, and I am also wearing safety glasses so that this stuff doesn't splatter into my eyeballs. It almost looks like shaving cream, guys. So I did end up spraying the back area there by the firewall, as well as the back side of the wheel wells there, because those were collecting really a lot of dirt. So we'll let this work for about 15 minutes. But while we're doing that, we could clean up some of the gunk in some of these hard to reach areas. And we'll use the soapy water and toothbrush to do that. So these connectors here are waterproof, so I am going to mist them with a little bit of water and just scrub away any more of the dirt that I can. So as you can see, guys, the engine looks cleaner already. I haven't even done any scrubbing, so it looks like the foam worked itself in there and loosened up the dirt. And now I'm going to hose it down and hose all those areas down that I hit with that foaming cleaner. So I'll set the hose to the shower setting. So I went in there, guys, and sprayed a little bit of the cleaner there and just agitated real quick with a toothbrush. And man, that thing looks so much cleaner with just a slight bit of agitation. So I'm going to do just that. Look at that, guys. Looks so much better already with a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of chemicals. So now I'm going to address areas like this behind the wheel well where there's rust forming. So especially in the battery tray, there's going to be vibration of the battery, and it's pretty heavy, so it's going to wear away at the paint. So I'm going to use a rust converter, cover these areas up, let that cure, and then repaint over this whole area. And as you can probably tell, this area I did repaint a long time ago, and parts of it held up, parts of it wore away. As far as rust converters go, guys, I will be using this stuff called Osphol. I've been using this for years, and this whole gallon has lasted me a very, very long time. So I'm going to apply this on those rusty surfaces using a paintbrush. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses, guys, when you're applying this, because this is an acid. So all I'm doing here is really just spreading the Osphol all over those rusty surfaces. So we can go around the engine bay and find all these rusty spots and then just apply Osphol there too.
More moments later.
So now we're gonna apply this Cerakote stuff, guys. This is actually one of the products that Project Farm recommends among the tested products that he was using when it comes to trim restoration. So this is what we're gonna use to coat the plastic pieces as well as protect it from further damage. So let's do that now. When we open it up, it does come with a pair of vinyl gloves and this little sachet which contains pretty much a small moist towelette. Now it's not perfect. There's some little dirt and grime in the corners, but we're just going to focus on the large majority when it comes to applying the Cerakote. So I'm going to apply it onto this part of the engine bay, as well as the tops, the plastic tops that you see there, and also this intake. Here's the engine cover. Just gonna clean it with some soapy water and with the rag. Look at that, guys. After a little bit of wiping on the battery, looks like it's almost new. So now I'll put this back and also apply some Cerakote to this. And I'll apply more Cerakote in areas that I've missed too. There we go, guys. I'm also not gonna put those back in yet. I'll clean up those nuts before I put them back in. But at least now that it's sitting on top of the engine, it's easier to apply the Cerakote. Now I am going to address these bare metal areas. As you can see, the areas that applied asphalt, it turned to this black oxide. So it's almost bare metal at this point, and now we just gotta protect that. So we'll use this as the primer, and also we'll stick to any areas that didn't get completely rust converted, so this should work just fine. And this is just to match the paint a little bit better. Now it's definitely not ideal to have all these wires and all these other components in the way, but you know what? We're not always gonna have a perfect situation for painting, and some paint to protect the metal is better than no paint. So now I am wiping the area down with alcohol, guys, just to make sure that it's free from any oils or debris.
Just then.
And that Cerakote definitely did a good job. Like, as you can see, it doesn't rub off at all. It really protected that plastic. And I did hit the black covers for like the coolant, the power steering fluid, the washer fluid, and the brake reservoir. And just by covering them with that Cerakote, it looks like it's brand new. It's crazy. And here's what the primed area looks like, guys. I moved what I can without putting too much emphasis on removing everything, because obviously it's not going to be ideal to have all the other components. That's why I used the brush, so that we don't have to mask and put the effort in removing everything. So something is better than nothing, and this will definitely protect the paint even further. But yeah, the primer definitely looks like shit, not gonna lie. So we'll see if I can somehow mask it with the paint, and then I'll probably use a dabbing technique to somewhat add a texture and remove the looks of streaking from the paintbrush. And I also did put the primer on those little rusty areas on this wheel well here. Now there's the battery area, guys. As you can see, it looks so much better already, but it doesn't match exactly. And when I do get to the point where I am removing some of the other components, I'll just paint them as I go. I'm not going to stress too much about the exact matching, because this is also hidden by the battery. And it's better to have this protected with paint rather than to have nothing at all. And here are some of the other areas that I did protect with the paint and the primer. And here are the battery hold down parts, guys. I did treat it with asphalt to convert all the rust, and I did do a quick wipe down of all the surfaces with alcohol so that we can get this primed and painted. Now as far as paint and primer goes, guys, I am using this 2-in-1, which I did pick up from my local Lowe's. So before we put everything back, I am going to be applying this Hybrid Solutions ceramic spray coating onto the inside of the engine bay wherever I did clean up. And this is another Project Farm special, which he tested thoroughly. So this we'll use as a coating for the backside of the wheel wells to keep it cleaner for longer. It should help repel water, dirt, and any type of debris that accumulates. And just like most waxes, guys, we'll apply this with a microfiber cloth, let it dry, and then buff it off with another microfiber cloth. And I did apply the wax onto the cloth instead of onto the surface. Now I am going to be using this Turtle Wax, another Turtle Wax product, Luxe Leather Cleaner and Conditioner for all the hoses, or at least the ones I can access, because this is designed for cleaning leather, vinyl, and rubber. For your reference, guys, when you're putting the battery back in, the rear hook hooks onto this hole here, and the front hook hooks onto this hole here. So now we can put in the battery tray and put the battery back in as well. And we'll make sure to apply some anti-seize on these threads so that they don't seize up in the future. And just double check to make sure it's snug. It's not going anywhere. Also reinstall the positive terminal. Wiggling it to make sure it's not loose. We can put this cover back, cover up that terminal. And we can also install the negative terminal. Wiggling that to make sure it's not loose. And I'll re-secure this with a zip tie in the middle to keep this winch negative terminal secure as well. Now we can also install those two 10mm cap nuts. Dang guys, I have to say, that engine bay looks amazing. Almost looks like it's brand new. Holy smokes. Now it's not perfect, guys. I do have to find a product that can clean the aluminum a little bit better, but I'll do that in a future video. We'll see how well this thing stays clean with all these new products that I tried in the engine bay. Now let's wrap this up with some before and after B-roll. So now let's summarize the cleanup process, guys. Step 1, remove the battery and vacuum up all the solids as well as the dirt that you can. And step 2 is the wet cleaning. And that involves wiping down all of the surfaces with a wet rag, using the gunk spray and then showering those areas. And then lastly, using soapy water and a brush to brush all of those nooks and crannies. And step 3 is applying the Cerakote on all the plastic components as well as cleaning up some of those hoses. Now to summarize the corrosion repair in 3 steps. Number 1, clean up the area. 2, apply a rust converter. 3, prime and paint. Now let me know what you guys think about this cleanup and repair. Now I know the paint doesn't match exactly, guys. And that's totally fine because it's under the hood and nobody's really gonna take a look and microscope your engine bay. And keep in mind, having the metal protected from the elements is definitely much better than having it rusty. So eventually, when I do an engine rebuild or something like that, or when I have to pull out any of those other components, I will be painting the whole engine bay with that aluminum color so everything matches. And keep in mind, when the engine bay is covered in dirt and mud, you can't tell anyways. So to wrap this up, guys, I would also suggest you guys check out under your battery tray because it's probably a little bit rusty there, so it's better to address it earlier. So that's all I got for this video, guys. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and hit that bell too while you're at it. And until next time, peace out, everybody.